Well, hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Terri Cole Show because you guys, today is the day. My very first book, Boundary Boss, The Essential Guide to Talk True, Be Seen, and Finally Live Free, is finally available for purchase. We've been talking about the pre-orders. Many of you have already ordered it, but today it officially drops. So woohoo! I am super excited. And in honor of today being my official pub date for my very first book baby, I'm going to be sharing with you my Boundary Boss Bill of Rights so that you know what your rights are when it comes to your boundaries. So, without further ado, but I do want to say, if you haven't ordered the book yet, you can go do it right now. And that still gives you all of the bonuses that I just kept adding bonuses throughout the past 2 months. You'll have access to all of them. And it also gives you an exclusive invite to our big celebration, book celebration party, virtually, of course, a week from today, actually, on the 27th. So you will have an entrance ticket to that event, all for the price of one book. And I'm sure you know lots of people who need this book, so feel free to go buy more than one book. But all you need to buy is one, and that gets you into the party. We're going to have all kinds of people, from Chris Carr to Danielle Laporte, all kinds of people coming into the party, talking about boundaries, sharing their own experiences and their biggest sort of boundary struggles and how they got over it. So that is from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern on the 27th. And wow, I'm so excited for all of those things. Finally to the celebration part. Woohoo! And I really want you to join me. So, your Boundary Boss Bill of Rights. Let's dive in. Let's start with you have the right to say no or yes to others without feeling guilty. And I know that many of you actually really struggle with saying no when you want to say no. We're worried about what others are going to think about us. We're worried about being rejected. We don't want conflict. But this is one of your Boundary Boss rights, is to say yes or no without feeling guilty. So you have to learn how to say no if you want to say no. But don't worry, that is exactly what I'm teaching you in the Boundary Boss book. Number 2, you have a right to make mistakes, to course correct, and to change your mind. And I think that this is a really big one. Many of us feel like once we decide, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a career, like we have got to stick with it forever. What it does, though, when you think that way, is that it puts the weight of a life sentence on every decision that we make, which is not us being in our best decision-making capabilities, right? So you have the right to course correct, to change your mind. So remember that. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. You have the right to negotiate for your preferences, your desires, and your needs. And here's the thing. You're the only one who knows your preferences, your desires, and your needs. So you're the only one who can negotiate for those things. And it's important that you do, because when we don't, people don't know who we are. I think many of us were taught that being easygoing is the way to be. This is how we get love. This is how people like us. But the truth is, sharing a preference is not being difficult. It's literally allowing people to know who you are. All right, the next one. You have the right to express and honor all of your feelings if you so choose. So you're also not obligated to share all of your feelings. When it's appropriate, when you want to, you can. If it's with someone who you know is emotionally unsafe, then hopefully you will have healthy emotional boundaries and not share all of your feelings with that person. So I have this feeling, and I've had this experience with my clients, that if they feel like if they're not telling all of their feelings to everyone, that's one extreme, then they're being dishonest. That's not true. This is about discernment. So you have a right to express and honor all of your feelings if you so choose. But it's your decision. as to who to share what with. Okay, next. You have a right to voice your opinion even if others disagree. And I know that many of you have taken our boundary quiz, and if you discover that you are like the peacekeeper or the chameleon, if that was your primary style, it can be difficult to share your opinion if others disagree. And again, remember, just because you have the right to do it does not mean that you're obligated or that you must do it. It simply means you have the right to. So if you know that sharing your opinion with someone who can be really aggressive or has been abusive in the past, well, then you can also choose not to. So again, it's all like what is right for you, and only you know that. Next, you have the right to be treated with respect, consideration, and care. You have the right to be treated with respect, consideration, and care. And I want to bring this back to your relationship with yourself, because you must treat yourself with respect, consideration, and care, because you are setting the bar. How you relate to yourself sets the bar for every other relationship in your life. So if you don't treat yourself with respect, consideration, and care, you will inevitably attract others who don't treat you with respect, consideration, and care either. Because people look to you to be like, okay, so how is it okay to treat this person? And if you don't consider yourself, if you work yourself to death, if you don't rest when you're tired, if you're always the person who says, yes, I can do it, I can take on more, if you're always over-functioning and over-giving, if you're last on your own list, then what are you telling others about the way that they should treat you? You're telling them that that's where the bar is. So you want the bar to be high, right? Because you deserve respect, consideration, and care. But it's on you to treat yourself that way. You have a right to determine who has the privilege of being in your amazing life. That is, right? That's your right. You determine who's in your life. So I want you to think about it this way. Imagine that in your life, you have a VIP section, and that you are the only bouncer, the only person with the guest list, and you are the person who is responsible for putting up that velvet rope. And if you don't do those things, then what you might find is that you are endlessly twisting yourself up in a pretzel or, inconveniencing yourself for anyone who just wanders into your VIP section and plops themselves down in a chair. That should really be reserved for mutuality, people who you have a relationship with, where that relationship fills you up, where you feel energized after spending time with those people. And I think that it comes as a surprise to many of my therapy clients that they have the right to decide who has what kind of access to their life. Not everyone deserves a 24-hour backstage pass to you, to your energy, to your amazing life. So you have the right to determine who has the privilege of being in your life, but you have to make those decisions. But don't worry, I teach you in the book how to do it. You have the right to communicate your boundaries, your limits, and your deal breakers. And again, no one else knows what is right for you in respect to these things but you. You may have a non-negotiable for you in relationships. Let's say that you grew up with an addicted parent. It may be non-negotiable if someone drinks too much. You may just not want to date them. You don't even, you can share that with someone, but you don't need to justify your non-negotiable boundaries to anyone. You have a right to have them. And the thing is, you must have them. Because again, no one else can possibly know what they should be but you. So you have the right to communicate your boundaries, your limits, and your deal breakers. You have the right to prioritize your self-care without feeling selfish. Sound familiar, anybody? Does self-care feel like you're being selfish? Well, you're not. And here's the thing. There are so many myths around this out there that we should prioritize everyone else. Everyone else needs something more than you need it. But what ends up happening, if our self-care is not solid, we don't take good care of ourselves, how do we end up feeling? Depleted, exhausted, and angry and resentful. Because it's almost like eventually you start blaming the other people for your crappy self-care because you don't feel good. And so for you to be the best you that you can be in your relationships, right, and in your life and in your career, you have to have excellent self-care, and it does have to be a priority. And I don't mean that, listen, if you have an infant, obviously you prioritize any minor children. We must prioritize them over ourselves. So yes, you will be sleep deprived when you have an infant, okay, or little kids. But that's a phase of life, and that's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you don't prioritize self-care because you think it makes you selfish. I am telling you it doesn't. And all of the relationships in your life will be better for you actually exercising your self-care. And last but not least, you have the right to talk true, be seen, and live free, as the subtitle of my Boundary Boss book will tell you. So if we take all of these rights and we put them together, that basically makes up what is in and what I'm teaching you in the Boundary Boss book. It is a journey to being able to know those things and actually believe them. Listen, you guys know, I believe that healthy, robust personal boundaries are the key to living a fulfilled, empowered, and self-directed life. I believe that self-love has to be at the top of your list as well, because it's the only path to healthy love, to any other real love. And that means having good boundaries. I believe that daily small actions, right? These steps, that is the foundation for real, lasting transformation. So don't worry, wherever you are on your path right now when it comes to boundaries, if you consider yourself a boundary disaster, it doesn't matter. You can start right where you are. And I can teach you the next right action and then the next. And before you know it, having this skill set becomes your new normal. Speaking up with ease and grace, saying yes or no, depending on how you feel, becomes the most natural thing, rather than hiding your true feelings. Listen, I believe that relief from suffering and sustainable change itself is possible. That is why I teach what I teach. That is why I wrote this book. I believe that your mental health supports every other aspect of your well-being. And to be mentally healthy, you must have healthy boundaries. It's just a fact. You cannot create the life that you want, the relationships that you want, with disordered boundaries. You just can't. Those things are mutually exclusive. They do not go together. Hey, I also believe that psychological concepts can be accessible. That's what I teach you in the book. That's what I teach you on my platform and in my courses. And if you've been following me for a while, you know this. I believe that I can create the easy to understand, therapeutic strategies, all of these theories. I can take this complicated stuff and make it accessible so that you can actually apply this to your one and only amazing life, to have more satisfaction, to have less pain, right? And I also believe that your uniqueness, this is what makes you different. This is what makes you you. So you knowing your preferences, your desires, your limits, your deal breakers, that means, right, you being fluent in boundaries. Expressing those things is allowing others and the world to know the truest and most authentic you, and you are so worth actually knowing. You are so worth actually loving. You don't need to change anything. What you're learning is how to embrace and celebrate you. There is literally nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You just need skills. And that is what I'm teaching you. I believe that what you think matters. I believe that your life experiences matter. I believe that what you feel matters. I believe you deserve to be celebrated. And I believe that you matter. And I want you to know that that is true. You matter. And I believe that you have the power to become a boundary boss. So welcome to the Boundary Revolution, y'all.